Welcome to the Athlon U College Football Podcast. My name is Braden Gall. You can get to me on the internet at Braden Gall.
And I'm Stephen Lassen. You get to me on the internet at athlonsports.com to read my college football coverage and everywhere else on your favorite social media channels.
Who are the top 4 teams in America right now, Stephen Lassen? Who have the best 4 resumes?
South Florida, John Mateer.
And Iowa State.
Iowa State, yeah.
Iowa State with a win over Kansas State, a win over Iowa, and a win over South Dakota State. The good South Dakota.
I mean, what a start. I mean, first of all, what a game Saturday between Iowa State and Iowa. Like the drama of being like 13-13, like hanging on every play. We talked about this.
We literally said it's going to be 12-11 in the fourth quarter, and whoever has the ball last wins. And that's what happened. That's what happened.
I know.
All right. Coming up on the show today, we'll get into the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Congratulations to Matt Campbell on, again, winning that sucker. And congratulations to Iowa for doing to quarterbacks what no one else is capable of doing. So we'll get to that. Obviously, lots of rivalries took place. We got a huge slate of games in the SEC this weekend, a not so huge slate of games in the Big Ten. The AAC continues to take center stage in college football, which is fantastic and amazing and wonderful and lovely. We've got all kinds of stuff to get to with Oklahoma and Michigan. We have 4 programs, 3 of which were all of which have been extremely proud, but all of which lost critical games over the weekend, and 3 of which have coaches that might be in big, big trouble. Florida, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State to some degree as well, kind of shoehorned in there after losses over the weekend. Big win for Baylor, big win for Vanderbilt, lots of stuff to get to, huge showdowns in the SEC, lots of stuff to talk about. But as we always do, we'll do picks against the spread. However, we begin with our favorite thing we saw this weekend, and that was what, Stephen Lassen?
Braden, do you know the name Carter Airy?
I do not.
Let me introduce you to a new border war legend. No, this was not Bo Prabula. This was not Ahmad Hardy. This man became a legend in the border war between Missouri and Kansas on Saturday. It was great to have this game back. But this man, Carter Airy, he was attempting a 45-yard field goal to win $25,000. He pulls up his shirt to reveal he has FKU written on it. Proceeds instead to kick the field goal, to kick the ball at the Kansas sideline. In other words, showing us never graduate. Rivalries are awesome. And Carter Airy now cemented his place as a border war legend for Missouri. Also, we should give a shout out to him because he is apparently a very good wheelchair basketball player. He had part of his leg amputated as a child. So great story. And he is now a legend in the history books for the border war.
So he goes out, so he lifts the shirt to reveal the FKU before the field goal, then kicks the ball the wrong direction directly at the Kansas team, and then proceeds to walk and lift the shirt again. And he's like, "Hey, just in case y'all didn't know why I kicked this football at you, let me show you my undershirt," as all good college kids do. And with FKU, no, look, border war was one of my favorite things I saw over the entire weekend. Fantastic back and forth game. Like Kansas totally dominates the first half. Missouri totally dominates or the first quarter, and then Missouri dominates the second quarter, and then kind of back and forth, and Missouri just feels like a better team. I don't know. I came out of that game, Stephen, thinking that these are two. I don't know if these two teams are contending for conference championships or spots in the conference championship game, but I came away thinking like, all right, I think Kansas is. They're sort of better than we. Let me rephrase this. This was second half of last season Kansas. I saw a Kansas team that looks like it's refound itself, and Jalen Daniels is kind of back to being Jalen Daniels. And I thought Bo Prabula was excellent. Missouri was even better than I expected. They have some really tough games coming up very quickly. Not this week, but coming up very quickly. You got South Carolina, you got Alabama, you got road trips, lots of tough stuff. But I thought I saw 2 pretty good football teams play a pretty good football game in a rivalry that we've got to have back in college football.
Yeah. I mean, I think number one, like it was just great to see these 2 teams back on the field. But number 2, like all the shenanigans about leading up to this game all throughout the summer, like these 2 fan bases have just been at each other, like everywhere you look, like any kind of comment section on Twitter, wherever it is. So it's just great to have like these type of games. And also we think big picture, like going forward, 9 games in the SEC, more conference games. One of the other things that's been mentioned a lot is with revenue sharing, the need to have better games overall so that you can sell tickets and drive in even more revenue. So I hope we get more games between these two, even in a 9-game SEC slate. But to your point, though, I do think the questions that we had about Missouri come into the season with Prabula, he's been excellent through the first 2 games of the season. Accuracy, the rushing has been there. We wondered how he would transition from a part-time to a full-time player. He's aced that test. And I think you're spot on about Kansas. I think they are they may not be in that top tier contenders of the Big 12, but they are going to be a spoiler for somebody, especially if Jalen Daniels keeps playing like he has.
Yeah, I think we figured out that this year's Kansas is going to be more like second half Kansas last year, and I think we figured out that some of the questions we had about Missouri, maybe we have more answers than we thought. I think that's what I came away thinking, like, that was pretty good. Two pretty decent teams, pretty good game.
Yeah.
2 pretty good quarterbacks. Like, I think all of that is pretty fair. My favorite thing I saw this weekend, I don't know if it's like malpractice or not. I don't know if it's like, can you sue? Because, college kids, they're very litigious these days. Can you sue a coach for making you do extra work? Syracuse beats UConn. I told you guys, watch out. And of course, UConn didn't cover because of like a complete collapse in the fourth quarter. Like, Syracuse was trailing, and then they end up covering a 7-point spread with like 3 scores in the fourth quarter to win the game. Clearly, Fran Brown not happy with how his team performed. And while they do get to shower, they did get to shower on Saturday because they won the game.
Winners get washed.
Winners get washed. Apparently, winners are not immune to running sprints. My favorite thing is Fran Brown's like doing the interview like after the game, and and he is making his team run sprints. Now, they weren't like hard sprints, and they were like 20 yards. It was like from the goal line to the 20. But the visual is just fantastic. Now, I am sure some like super sensitive person is like, I can't believe you'd make these kids do that after a game. Fran Brown's offenses want to run this many plays. Like, they run an up-tempo offense. So have them run sprints. I just thought that was hilarious. You won a game and made your team run afterward on the field in front of the fans. Hilarious. Loved it.
I thought it was hilarious as well. His explanation was basically guys were not getting lined up, guys not running to the ball, so that's why they had to run after the game. By the way, I think Fran Brown has quickly moved up the list of power rankings of like most entertaining coaches, because we talked about the winners get washed, but after the first week of the season, they asked him about the Tennessee game. He's like, the tape sucked. Like, he was just as brutally honest as possible. So Fran Brown quickly moving up the power rankings of entertainment value.
You know the thing that struck me though is thinking, because I agree, I'm like, Fran Brown's turning into a quote machine.
Yeah.
The thing that occurred to me though is that it will run. It's great when you win 10 games, and it's great when you've kind of overachieved in the first few years of your career. That kind of stuff though will rub people the wrong way very quickly if the program goes south. And I'm not suggesting that's what's going to happen or whatever, but you can get real Butch Jonesy real fast if you're not careful. Like, you can end up being like the shtick, wears off if you're not winning games.
Look at the schedule this year. It could wear off quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, unlike the stink that you cannot wash off yourself after a loss. Anyway. All right. So my favorite thing is Syracuse running sprints afterward. Your favorite thing is a student kicking a ball directly at an opposing team. It's fantastic. By the way, I was talking to the sideline reporter who called that game for ESPN. Dawn Davenport, she's here in Nashville. We cover the Titans together. I was chatting with her about the trip. I was like, hey, man, that looked like a pretty awesome rivalry. Like, what's going on? And she said when she did her stand-up, you do like the 40 seconds before the game, and a lot of times you do it on the field, but they did it in the stands. And she was like, she was talking to her. She was telling me this story on Tuesday morning. She goes, I was not allowed to say Kansas during my broadcast, during my hit. They call them a hit, right? A sideline hit. I could not say Kansas because if you say Kansas in the student section of Missouri, they will scream FU, but the whole thing. And so she was like, I don't think I can say Kansas during this hit. So she was like, Missouri against the other team.
The Jayhawks, right?
No, because if you say that, they'll scream that too.
Right,
so
true.
You can't mention the name out loud otherwise. And she's like, guys, please just don't cuss during this 145-second hit I got to do on live national television on ESPN, please. So if you just need some insight into how fantastic that rivalry is. Great. The border war since the 1800s. Let's go, baby. Let's go. All right, let's get into a more complicated conversation. And that is the future of Florida football, Virginia Tech football, and Oklahoma State football, with a little bit of what's happening at Kansas State. Mostly just a trip to Ireland, but we'll get to all of this. I want to lay out some numbers for you, Stephen. From 2008 to 2011, okay? 2008, 2011, Oklahoma State won 41 games. From 2008 to 2011, Florida won 41 games. From 2008 to 2011, Virginia Tech won 42 games. Those three programs were dominant programs in their respective conferences at that time. You'll remember 2011, Oklahoma State, they were an Iowa State field goal away from being in the BCS championship game. We know how good Frank Beamer's last few years were. And Kansas State, while they were, excuse me, I'm very verklempt today on the show. Kansas State, that was, Bill Snyder came back, I believe, in 2009. By 2012, they were back to winning 11 games. So they only won 28 games during that span. And that includes a really bad, I think it was Ron Prince that was before Bill Snyder.
Jordy Nelson, Josh Freeman teams there.
Yeah. So the point is you have four very proud programs with great fan bases. They're not sort of like the Kansas State, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State. They're not national championship caliber. They're that second tier down, but they have great fans, great tradition. And just 15 years ago, were dominant programs. And now, like, Billy Napier loses to South Florida. I know that Caleb Banks didn't play, but 20-20 now under Billy Napier. Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, this slow build he was supposed to have going, now 16-23 after getting destroyed at home over the last three quarters by Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had a backup quarterback throwing touchdown passes in the fourth quarter on the road in Blacksburg. That's a real sentence. Oklahoma State now 4-10 in their last 14 games. Kansas State, I think we can attribute to the trip to Ireland, but that's another bad performance by Kansas State. The team that you and I thought was winning the Big 12, now 1-2. We'll see what happens with Kansas State. They could rally. I don't know where to start with this. I guess Mike Gundy's in a different situation, so maybe we can start there. If this continues, and Dan Lanning ran the score up with Oregon, they scored 60-plus points. Like, is this just Mike Gundy just deciding to retire at the end of the year? Is that where we're at here?
Is he quiet quitting? Is that what you're saying?
It certainly looked that way on Saturday and in all Big 12 games last year.
I mean, I think this gets at the real problem for Gundy, which is, in fairness, I think Oregon's really, really good. I think that they're miles apart. We knew that coming into the game. What happened on the field only solidified it. You add in Oklahoma State has a ton of new players. They're missing the starting quarterback. Like, all that, it's explainable. I think the problem is the trend line here for Oklahoma State. 3-9 last year, winless in Big 12 play. Coach who probably needs to recruit a little better. Probably not maybe as interested in that as maybe before. So I think the overall trend line here is what's concerning for Oklahoma State. You have all this amidst the background of last year, took a pay cut, saved his job. Here you are getting massacred on the road at Oregon. And a roster that, and not to be mean about this, a roster that does not look like it's going to be very good, regardless of who your starting quarterback is. So there's a lot of problems when you think about the trend line and also the current situation of trying to play their way out of this. I don't really see a way for this Oklahoma State team to really get into that 7-8 win range right now. So I think Gundy's probably in a lot of trouble at this point.
Well, and I would assume that Oklahoma State would have one of those conversations where they're like, no, we want you to make this decision. We want you to make it look like you're the one who's announcing. And I could see, like, 5-6 games in, if it looks like you're going to force him out, just tell him, like, look, you just announced that you're going to retire at the end of the year, and then you can just take your victory lap. Like, just take your victory lap. Because it's not that he doesn't deserve the lap. Like, he does.
Yeah.
He's won so many football games. I mean, look, he's a weird dude, but whatever. A lot of these guys are weird. So, like, who cares?
But he is Oklahoma State football, though.
Right.
Like, his playing career, and then he's got, 170 wins there. So, yeah, he deserves the victory lap.
Right. So take the victory lap and make it look outwardly to the public like it was his decision. Like, man, it's enough. It's run its course. And because here's the thing, so many of these great coaches, it's they don't get to go out on their own. None of them. Bill Belichick, like the greatest of the greats. Generally speaking, it erodes, and the guy gets fired. Like, the very few are like Barry Alvarez or whatever, where you like retire to the athletic director role and like when your team was really great. Like it just doesn't
coach a bowl game when you need an interim coach.
Yeah, just pop in, just pop down, and just pop down. Just be like a Biff Poggi every now and then. Just whenever your coach gets suspended, you get the head coach again. So I think that's, to me, there's a simple solution there, and it doesn't have to be controversial. Virginia Tech and Florida are in a different category here. Like Billy Napier did a great job at the end of last season. Felt like the slow build was happening. You got DJ Lagway, your star quarterback, which will quiet a lot of people down in any city of college football. It's different than Virginia Tech, where it just doesn't seem like Brent Pry has made any progress. And these are great fans. Oklahoma State, great fans. These are proud programs, and I could see all three of them changing at this point.
I could too. I think the alarming thing for Virginia Tech is what you mentioned earlier, is that Vanderbilt completely dominated, the second half, and also it's Vanderbilt. And this is not meant to be mean. It's that Vanderbilt has been consistently whatever bottom tier you want to use now, 16 teams in the SEC. It's a little different story if it's like LSU goes in there and does that. It's a little alarming when Vanderbilt goes in there. And this is a very, very good Vanderbilt team. But to go in and put the foot down in the second half and just completely stomp Virginia Tech has got to be concerning, considering they were supposed to have kind of a breakout season last year, finished 6-7. They had some injuries. And in fairness, they have a lot of new pieces, and they played on Sunday. So the turnaround from Sunday to play Vanderbilt at home is tough. They might be able to play their way out because they have a good quarterback in Kyron Drones, and as some of these pieces get comfortable. But 7-6 in his he's 3-8 in his first year, then 7-6, 6-7, 16-23 overall with a losing record. Also, keep in mind what happened just a few weeks ago was their athletic director, Whit Babcock, had this big presentation. Some of the slides were out there on the internet about how they need to do a better job with getting more revenue. They need to be able to get more money into the program to be able to compete at a higher level in the ACC. And when you start losing, those donations dry up, and that becomes a problem for the coach because you can't get the players you need. So I think Brent Pry, the clock is starting to tick on his tenure there.
Money's always the great equalizer. If you stop making money by a coach, you're going to have to start making changes. And that's just sort of the way it is. It's like there was supposed to be this long-term, it's almost like it was supposed to be a Billy Napier type build. Kind of like it was supposed to be, hey, let's reestablish our recruiting roots in the state. Let's continue to kind of like recruit in the 757 in the Hampton Roads Tidewater area. And let's kind of reestablish that Hokie brand that kind of started the Frank Beamer era, like around the Kevin Jones recruitment, I think, is when that like kind of switched around 2000, around Michael Vick, maybe before that. And you could kind of see the slow growth from year 1 to year 2. And is Drones a great player? I don't know. I think he's a fine quarterback, but I don't think he's gotten significantly better since he played. The last time he played for Virginia Tech, they played well against South Carolina. But when the money dries up and things like athletic director slides start leaking to the public, that's a concern. With Florida, I just like there's still so much talent there. Like they have 2 first-round picks potentially on the line of scrimmage. They got a couple other NFL players. They got a great quarterback. Like I could see them kind of rebounding this season. Like there's reasons to look at the roster and be like, no, they could be pretty good. But their schedule is so hard. I don't see how same thing you were talking about with Syracuse. Like I don't see how Florida responds with too many. Like they're not a playoff team. Also, let's not blame all of this on Florida. South Florida deserves a lot of credit for what they did. Like Florida could still run the football. Like it wasn't like South Florida was like perfect in this game. And they needed the long drive there at the end to win. But South Florida deserves a lot of credit for what they've accomplished in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a part of all these conversations about these teams, that the opponent had something to do with it, and certainly that's the case for South Florida. I on the Florida thing though, just the headline "South Florida beats Florida" is not I mean, regardless of where Florida is, it's not going to age well for Billy Napier in his tenure. The same thing like Vanderbilt going on the road and pounding Virginia Tech. I think the thing that worries me with Florida is, DJ Lagway has not totally looked like the DJ Lagway I think we thought we'd see. Like, is he 100%? I also think sometimes this offense gets a little tentative, and they need to be able to let him push the ball down the field. He's got the arm to do it. Again, is he hurt? I think that's a big question. Or at least he's rusty. Also, I think there's some things that you see in these games, whether it's like the strange penalties, the spitting. It was before they had issues with just getting the special teams.
Especially after Thursday night, where we had like a Hawk Tua entire pregame thing with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Like, what are we doing?
Exactly.
Like, you should have known. What are we like? That was on. It was top of mind. It was on every sports talk show all day Friday across the whole country.
100%. It's small things like that add up, and you add up to a program that in your fourth season at Florida, a place that has won national championships not too long ago. This shouldn't be a 4-year rebuilding process, and this should be the year that we've heard for 2 years now. This is the best roster. This is the best roster. 4 years in, you shouldn't be losing to South Florida, regardless of how good South Florida is. And we shouldn't be seeing the same mistakes. We shouldn't be seeing the same kind of questions about Billy Napier's offense. The card that he had to play last season was Lagway. This year, the one card he could play would be to give up play calling duties, and he will not do that. The schedule, 8 of the 10 remaining games come against ranked opponents, and one of those unranked opponents is Mississippi State, who just beat Arizona State. This schedule is brutal the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's bad. Well, and it sounds like you're questioning sort of their strategic approach on offense. Like, hey, if it's DJ Lagway that's keeping them from going down the field, that's one thing. If it's the coach being conservative and he's, to your point, that you can always give up play calling, fire your coordinators, and like keep your job, generally speaking, we shall see. The question about Florida, like, Kansas State, we can touch on them too. Like, Army's a good football team. It's a tough matchup. It's clear that you're dragging from coming back from Ireland. I actually don't care about the Army-Tarleton State thing. I don't think that's relevant here. I think Army's a good program with a good coach, and they play a system that's hard to play against. So I actually, like, it's a bad loss, but I don't, like, I'm not making excuses here for all these teams. Like, yes, Oregon is significantly better than Oklahoma State. That's the problem, right? Like, that's the problem. Vanderbilt, this is the best Vanderbilt team maybe ever. So, like, again, there's like best South Florida team we've seen in years. We can put all the caveats on all of this stuff. I don't think these are like truly bad losses, but it's a real bad indictment of the direction of the program for all of them. And the Kansas State one's the one where I kind of go, you could still come back from all of this and still make it to the Big 12 championship game. You're going to play Arizona on Friday night. That is a non-conference game. That point spread, Kansas State, I think, started as an underdog. Now they're a favorite. Arizona's 2-0, but how good are they? We don't know. So Kansas State could easily bounce back through all of this. How many Big 12 teams, Steven, have you seen go 1-2, lose some crazy, ridiculous game to like Northern Iowa, and then end up finishing like 9-3 and playing in the Big 12 championship game? Happens all the time in the Big 12, I feel like.
I mean, I hate to cite the stat again, but 9 teams were alive in the Big 12 last year, going into the final week of the season. So it's doable. I mean, keep in mind, Kansas State only has 1 loss in conference play. Like, I think a lot of their early season struggles are really the loss in Ireland. I mean, Florida State went through this last year. I mean, maybe I don't see a total collapse here for Kansas State, but seems to be something if you lose the first game of the year in Ireland and you come back and you struggle. And they played a North Dakota team that I think is ranked in the FCS, won by 3. And then they play Army of all teams, which is very difficult to prepare for, and they lose. And I kind of thought if they could just almost beat Army, beat Arizona, they get to the off week, they get UCF, kind of catch their breath a little bit during the stretch, they'd be fine later in the season. So
and now they have a short week. They're playing on Friday night. So.
Yeah, the schedule makers
on the road
did them no favors. Like, there's things the game on Saturday was crazy. Like, they had 2 possessions in the second half. Like, Army just took up the whole, hogged the ball in the second half of that game. So
that's the nature of playing the troops. So.
That's exactly why they probably shouldn't be playing Army after this kind of stretch of the season. The schedule, whoever made their schedule, but conference, and otherwise did them no favors.
Oklahoma State lost 33-7 to South Alabama in the non-conference a couple years ago. Ended up going 9-3 and playing in the Big 12 championship game. So I'm just saying, like, losing to Army is not like, losing to Ohio worse. But Ohio's pretty good. It's just a bad sign for Rich Rodriguez in West Virginia that they lost to Ohio. So I don't like. I think Kansas State has still very much in the race in the Big 12. I don't think Florida is. Virginia Tech has, I think, the most. Oklahoma State has got an easy solution. They have the most problems, but they have an easy solution. I think Virginia Tech's the trickiest one because Florida is still a great job. You're still going to attract great candidates should you decide to make a move. But Virginia Tech's the weird one. It's like I think they're a great program. I think they have great fans and should have a great atmosphere and should be a really good program. But how many coaches look at the long-term stability of the ACC in a program that's maybe not as wealthy as some of the other programs, Clemson's and Florida State's and Miami's of the league, and look at it and go, I'd rather be a coordinator over here. I don't know. I would hope that Virginia Tech can lure attractive candidates, but that's I think Oklahoma State, again, easy solution to this. I don't know what Virginia Tech does. That's the one I'm a little bit more concerned about.
Don't you think Virginia Tech, though, is on the cut line? Like if there was some type of ACC.
Oh, for sure. No, they're above the cut line. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think two things can be true, that they have some financial things that they're sorting through and they're going to have to address. But the right hire can come in and probably turn this thing around quickly if Brent Pry doesn't succeed this year. It is interesting, and this is like a bigger picture college football thing, but you think about how successful Frank Beamer was, and he was there for so long. A lot of these teams have changed coaches 2 and 3 times since then. And since Frank Beamer retired, they've had 2. Fuente had a great first season, didn't work out. Brent Pry not working out. So I in a situation like this, I do wonder, like, it makes me think higher of Frank Beamer in terms of his coaching ability and wondering what the obstacles are with the job outside of that.
Easier said than done. Although I think Pittsburgh and NC State have not hired a coach. I don't think since then.
Iowa hasn't.
They've got 10 guys in their 10th year, Narduzzi and Doran. I think at least Doran might be in his 10th year. By the way, nice win by NC State over Virginia. Just give CJ Bailey the ball and get out of the way. Like, just that's their whole plan this year. Florida at LSU. That point spread's only 7.5. If you looked at how they played against Clemson, LSU, and against South Florida, as Florida, that point spread makes no sense, which Vegas is telling you that they think Florida is going to play much better, that they're going to respond to this adversity and play better. Are you buying that?
I think I'm buying Florida playing well here. I think we've seen, like, LSU in week 1, a good win over Clemson. We definitely did not see the best LSU team that we were going to see last week. Now, I think
a lot of teams did that. Clemson did that. Georgia did that. A lot of teams did that.
I am not too concerned at all if I'm LSU. I think that's just a timing thing. They played the game against Clemson, turn around, play Louisiana Tech, got to play Florida. A lot of weird scheduling early in the season. So I'm when this game popped up on the schedule, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is, man, this could be a great quarterback battle between Lagway and Nussmeier. And also, like, the line of scrimmage, like, LSU's defensive front was so good in that game against Clemson. And now they're going to get a Florida offensive line that we thought was one of the best in the country. It haven't really played up to that. And so I think all the individual matchups, and then there's, like, the big picture storyline of, like, pressure for Florida, backs against the wall. LSU's kind of been on a mini revenge tour, maybe, because they took care of business in the season opener. Now they could beat Florida, who they lost to last year. So there's still a ton of intrigue for me. I would not be surprised if Florida plays well here by any stretch.
It'll be interesting to see what Lagway does against a lot of those, like, the back end of that defense for LSU. Perkins and Whit Weeks and Delane have all played very, very well on the defense. So it seems like maybe they finally have some answers on the back end of that defense in the back 7. So keep an eye on that LSU defense. Those guys, NFL prospects, kind of moving up boards right now for LSU. South Florida, by the way, will play at Miami. No rest for the weary. That is a 3:30 Central Time kickoff. They're an 18.5-point underdog here. To me, that is one of those moments where you just go, I'll take the 18.5 in South Florida. They're playing great football. Miami's a pretty good team, but and maybe they're even better than I expected them to be. But you and I were talking before the show. A program like South Florida only has so many bullets in the chamber, so much energy in the tank, whatever analogy you want to use, and using it all up on opening night at home with a crowd behind you to destroy Boise State, and then the focus it takes to go in there and win that battle in a close game, to come from behind in the fourth quarter on the road to beat Florida. How much do you have left if you get down early against Miami is my question. Like, does it unravel and you just punt on the game? Not intentionally, but like it's one of those where you're just like, oh, they never had it. You know what I'm saying? You know how there's upsets, you circle and you're like, oh, this could be a good game, and then it's 14-0 Miami, and you're like, oh, they never really had a chance in this one.
I think Miami's the best team of the bunch that they've played. Like, so this is already a harder challenge for South Florida right off the jump. It obviously being on the road challenge, toughest team they played, tough challenge. So the obstacles are already stacked against them. And also, I think the biggest factor here is the schedule. Like, you've played two opponents, and the emotional amount of energy they have expended against Florida and Boise State is a lot. Now, saying all that, the way that South Florida is built, their defense has taken a significant step forward over the last couple of years. Todd Orlando has done a great job there. Also, what you and I talked about this offseason is Byron Brown. Like, his return has made a huge difference here. He is one of the better G5 quarterbacks in the country. His throwing motion's a little weird at times, but his rushing, his passing, to go with a good defense, and Alex Golish has kind of pushed all the right buttons in these games, so far, and the physicality and the speed that they can play with. So I think they can go on the road here, and I think they can make it interesting against Miami. But I do worry about being the third game in the stretch. If there was like a FCS, then Miami,
or a bye week, maybe.
Right.
I'm curious. Does the win over Florida give South Florida at large opportunity? Because to me, that's what made Cincinnati interesting the year they made the playoff, was they beat Indiana and Notre Dame famously in that schedule, and then they ran through the rest of their conference schedule. But those wins over Indiana and Notre Dame had allowed them to sort of build a resume early to be an at-large team, even in a 4-team playoff. And so what I'm curious about now is this win gives them huge margin for error. They could lose 2 games now the rest of the way and then win the conference and still probably be the highest-rated champion. Or if they lose to Miami hypothetically this weekend and then they lose in the conference title game and run the table in the regular season, they could still get in. If they're like 5th in the nation and they're 11-1, you could in theory lose in your conference title game, which we have said over and over and over again should not necessarily matter in the ACC or the Big Ten or the SEC or the Big 12. Why would it matter then if we're already putting the hay in the barn for an 11-1 South Florida team having a rematch against Tulane or Memphis or Navy or Army, whoever else they've got to play this year? I just think at large is on the table now for South Florida with this win, and that's a big deal.
I think it should be. I think, first of all, that statement only gets more likely if they go on the road and play well at Miami. Like, even a loss, if it's a 7-point game, it's a 3-point game, to have those 2 wins plus maybe a close loss against the top 10 Miami team, that bodes well later in the season. I also think, their schedule the rest of the way is relatively manageable. They get South Carolina State, Charlotte, North Texas, FAU.
Don't sleep on that road trip to Denton.
That's right. North Texas is pretty good. At Memphis, tough game. UTSA is going to be tough. They get at Navy, which is going to be hard. At UAB, probably not.
So they don't play Army. They don't play Army or Tulane. They would probably play Tulane in the championship game,
which is, I think, a huge check in the favor of the American. Because let's just say Tulane beats Duke this weekend and they lose to Ole Miss. I mean, you still have 2 wins against power conference opponents already. If you're Tulane, if you beat Duke and you already get the win over Northwestern, they don't play.
It could be a 2-bid league, is what I'm saying.
They're on opposite tracks, headed for a meeting in the American championship game, both potentially with double-digit wins. So yeah, they are absolutely on the radar at this point.
Yeah, I think at large should be considered. Now, I think they have to get really high in the either Tulane or South Florida. I think they need to get to 5 in the nation going into that championship game. If they're 5th or 6th, I would argue that if you are the 5th or 6th best team based on the committee at the end of the regular season pre-championship games, there's nothing that you can do in that game that should knock you out. And
Would
if
agree.
Tulane were to win that game, this hypothetical scenario, if Tulane were to win that game, they clinch an automatic bid, probably, in that. I mean, unless they lose to Duke and Ole Miss and a regular season game somewhere else, I guess maybe it's possible. So I don't know. They don't have to play Army either, which is just one of those like, whew, all right, cool.
Yeah, right, right.
Because like because of the offensive scheme there. So AAC in good shape. Memphis, of course, will play at Troy this weekend. That's an interesting one. Keep an eye on that. Duke at Tulane. Tulane is a 1.5-point dog at home after Illinois put I don't want to say a beatdown on Duke because it was closer than the score indicated, but that was a really good win for Illinois on the road in like basically a coin flip of a football game. They win by a lot of points. So Illinois, not a lot of challenges on that schedule for Illinois. So I talked to you all summer about Illinois' playoff hopes. I think it's very real now, especially with that win for the Fighting Illini.
Yeah.
So
I think
AAC, pretty good stuff there.
it really is. I mean, I just think if you look at the big picture and you start kind of trying to assess like the G5 for potential playoff, and there's a long way to go. James Madison had a chance to beat Louisville on Friday night. They fell just short in that game, but the things are stacking up for the American. Like with South Florida already beating Boise, you already have a barrier to if you're the Mountain West, and plus Boise's still got to play Notre Dame in a few weeks. UNLV's also looked a lot better too on defense. I think the last couple of weeks they beat UCLA on last Saturday. So a lot of intrigue here, but the Americans in a great spot.
Quickly on Vanderbilt, by the way, 34-0 in the second half on Virginia Tech. A backup Vanderbilt quarterback threw a touchdown pass in mop-up duty in garbage time of a road blowout to a future NFL tight end. That's a real thing that happened for Vanderbilt. All those are facts. None of that was opinion. And Diego Pavia, for those who do not live in this town, he is everywhere. It is so much fun to watch him do what he's doing. And I say this as a Tennessee alumni who should hate Vanderbilt. I love Diego Pavia. It's absolutely fantastic. They go on the road, South Carolina. This opened at like a 6-point spread. It's down to 4.5. Vanderbilt, everyone has taken Diego Pavia seriously, but if you go on the road and beat South Carolina, we're going to start having a different conversation about Vanderbilt.
What's that conversation? That they are a playoff contender? Are we going there?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
If you can go on the road and destroy Virginia Tech and beat South Carolina, I mean, those are South Carolina's top 15 team right now.
The last time that Vanderbilt won in Columbia was 2007. So there's a chance to make some history here for Vanderbilt. Also, like if you just look at the history between these two teams, like Vanderbilt has struggled to score more than a touchdown, like in most of the last couple games. So if they get 2, that would be breaking some streaks here. But no, I think in the bigger picture here, think about the respect that Vanderbilt is getting. I mean, they're going on the road to play South Carolina. Some people have South Carolina in the top 10. Tough place to play, and they're only like a 4 or 5 point dog. I think that's given Vanderbilt a lot of respect and rightfully so, based upon the way they played last week and what they have coming into this game.
Do you think that's a little overcorrection potentially?
I think
that South Carolina is more than 4 points better than Vanderbilt.
So I think this is a good debate because I think South Carolina, there's some problems, but I think I wouldn't put too much stock into that performance against South Carolina State. There were so many games last weekend that had like weather issues and delays, and I just like
mentally overlooking your opponent kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you're South Carolina, you just beat Virginia Tech. You're worried about Vanderbilt, and there's an FCS team. Now, saying all that, South Carolina
worried about Vanderbilt is a thing that you also just said on the podcast.
South Carolina's maybe best offensive player has been Vicari Swain so far with the punt returns and stuff. So they've got to do more offensively to help Lenore Sellers, and they got to get him on track to beat Vanderbilt this week.
Yep, I agree. We'll see what happens in that one. A lot of other SEC games let's get to coming up here, but Oklahoma at Michigan, the big one. I think what we said last week kind of happened. Like I think you had said like 21-17. I had said like 20-17. That's basically what the score was near the end of the game. That Bryce Underwood's going to be really good, but like the guy with more experience at home is probably going to win the game, and that's what happened. I was wrong on my 5.5, obviously. Here's the thing. Here's John Mateer. John Mateer is an absolute joy to watch play football, and I'm going to say, like, as a football fan, keep doing you, man. Just keep burning it to the ground, dude. I love it. Take the risks. Throw outside the hash on the opposite hash from your deep in your own end zone. Try to run people over. Like, do the whole deal. Be Johnny Manziel and Patrick Mahomes and everybody else wrapped into one player. Like, have fun. If I am inside the Oklahoma coaching staff, I am telling him to chill out. Not in like I want to take your best assets away from you kind of way, but like he's very good at protecting his body. So I think that's part of what makes him really intriguing prospect for the NFL. But like the weird releases and the gunslinger and the I'm going to run you over, like I love it. I love it. And there's not too many defenses that are going to be more physical than Michigan. So maybe he's capable of surviving, but I'm just, if I'm on that coaching staff, I'm kind of like, John, okay, this is where you can slide. This is where you can throw it away. This is where you can take a knee. Like, just take it easy, Big John.
I think, well, first of all, it's no surprise that Mr. Venmo kind of bet on himself this offseason by going to Oklahoma. But poor jokes aside, I think what you're getting at is my concern for Oklahoma, like the good and the bad, which is Mateer is fun to watch. He made a lot of crazy, awesome throws that are off platform. His rushing ability is super important in this offense, but he's also accounted for 98 of the team's 241 rushing yards so far. They need him to be healthy in game 10 and 11 and 12 and potentially the playoff, which gets at the kind of the question here for Oklahoma is, can the offensive line get better? Can the rushing attack get better over the next couple weeks? Like they shuffled their offensive line. They got maybe the right 5 in there. We'll see. Like it's only game 2. By game 7, can this group be better? But I think the things you like about Oklahoma, the defense is awesome. I mean, they basically didn't give up a whole lot to Michigan outside of like 2 plays. And Mateer has lived up to the hype and then some. So I think as long as they can keep Mateer healthy to go with a good defense, this Oklahoma team is definitely going to be in the mix to make the playoff.
Justice Haynes, very good for Michigan. I thought Michigan kind of just showed you all of the things that they could be by the end of the year. Does that sound right? Like, I think that's a good football team. I don't think it's bad. I think it's, I think Oklahoma might be better than I expected. But Underwood's got tons of ability. I've been watching Cam Ward here locally for the Titans. And while he may not have great numbers or the team may not win a lot of games, like he's incredibly poised and calm and quiet when he plays football. And I kind of see a little bit of that from Underwood too, just like unflappable, like just very little demeanor change, good situation, bad play, good play. Bryce Underwood's going to be real good. He's got a ton of ability. Now, was there like a dust up on the sideline where he's getting in his player's face? I can't remember what that was. Was it Justice Haynes that he was talking with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was interesting. That was interesting.
I think if you were just to look at the box score, you'd see 9 of 24, 442 passing yards, and you might say, well, he struggled, right? And you can look at that a couple different ways, though. And I think I wouldn't worry about the stats. I worry about what I saw, and I saw a quarterback that's going to be very, very good in a couple of years. And I think there was a very timid Michigan offense, and I think some of that is they just don't have great receivers right now, and they didn't want to put too much on the young quarterback to consistently go downfield in this game. So I think in time, as Michigan gets more pieces around him, he gets better. They're going to be just fine. Bryce Underwood is going to be very, very good for Michigan. He is the least of my concerns for this team.
I agree, but with Illinois winning, like, is there any Iowa loses? Michigan State with a nice win, by the way, double overtime. Aiden Childs running all over the place there. Not a great win, but a nice one for Jonathan Smith. Iowa loses. UCLA. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Man, if Deshaun Foster saying, well, we were close against Utah, and then you look at the score, and like,
oh my God,
not sure about that one.
So Illinois dominates Duke. Iowa loses. USC looks like they found some offensive weapons. Man, those receivers are fun to watch. I'm just curious what we make of the Big Ten in general. Oregon looks better than we thought. Ohio State's already got a huge win. Penn State hasn't played a football game yet. What do you make of the top of the Big Ten? Any change there? Are you dropping Michigan, moving Illinois up? Too soon to tell. How good is Indiana? How good is Nebraska? How good? Like, we don't know how good some of these teams are yet. And I don't think, by the way, Stephen, that we're going to learn much about this conference at all in week number 3.
Yeah, it's not a great slate, is it? I probably would bump Illinois ahead of Michigan. I thought Michigan coming into the year was ahead. I think just based upon what we saw 2 weeks, and not to overrate Illinois, went over Duke, a game where Duke kind of had some issues there that contributed to this final score. But I do think I would probably move Illinois ahead. I don't think my top 3 change. Like, I still like Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. Whatever order it ends up being, they feel very set as the top 3. Intrigued by what we've seen out of USC and Nebraska. I think maybe they are a little bit better than we thought, but I want to see more, and I want to see them against some actual competition coming up.
Oregon is a 27.5-point favorite over Northwestern. More on that in a second. UCLA plays New Mexico. Indiana plays Indiana State. Michigan's a 24-touchdown favorite over Central Michigan. Then we play Houston Christian, Towson, Villanova, Norfolk State, Youngstown State, none of which those games have point spreads because they're FCS. Ohio's a good mid-major team, but Ohio State is a 31-point favorite. You have one meaningful game in the conference, USC at Purdue, and there's a little bit more of a test there for USC, at least, with some of their new pieces. Lane and Lemon are both having a great time. Jordan, the running back's looking good, too. Then Illinois, 4-touchdown favorite over Western Michigan. Iowa, 5-touchdown favorite over UMass. The best game of the weekend for Big Ten. Minnesota at Cal, 1.5-point favorite. Throw out the records. This is a god-awful week. Meanwhile, the SEC's playing like 11 ranked opponents. So don't give me that scheduling easy garbage, Big Ten fan.
Big Ten After Dark with Minnesota and Cal. Hey, by the way, I forgot to mention this on last week's show, so shame on me for not bringing this up. But Cal, you want to talk about a young quarterback like Bryce Underwood, who was good? JKS against Oregon State. There was some seriously impressive throws. Like, I know he's a 5-star, but I kind of have my doubts about Cal with Brian Harsin and the personnel turnover. But he has been very good through the first couple weeks of the season. So I kind of bumped Cal up my power rankings a little bit based upon what I've seen. But also on the young quarterback front, Minnesota, Drake Lindsey has had a nice start to the season.
It's a good game. This is a good game. I liked Minnesota coming into this one, and I'll be all over Sagapulutelele, the quarterback there for Cal. 69% completion. I have not sat down and watched a lot of him, so that's a good note there by you. I will keep an eye on that one. All right, what else? Oh, can I mention Baylor real fast? I want to mention Baylor real fast. They have given up 873 yards and over 70 points in 2 games. They have run 166 plays and have almost 1,100 yards of offense in 2 games. Do they not know this is 2025 Big 12 football? Do they not realize like this is not 2016 or 2014 or whatever? This is old school Baylor football here. This is old school Big 12. Man, they are fun to watch. But my God, you're going to need a lot of heartburn medication in Waco.
I was gonna say, consult your cardiologist if you watch a Baylor game this season, because they have gone for it 12 times on 4th down this season. Like, Dave Aranda is just not the whole like philosophy thing with Aranda. You think defensive coach gonna be a little bit more cautious. Like, no, like Sawyer Robertson's thrown almost 100 passes in 2 games, and they're going for it on 4th down. So that was a wild game between Baylor and SMU. I was thinking about, as I was watching that game on Saturday, and just thinking about what's coming up for Baylor. Like, they get Arizona State, Kansas State, and they get Utah at home. Suddenly, Kansas State and Arizona State look more gettable. I mean, we like Baylor as a sleeper in the preseason. TCU on the road might be tougher, and Arizona on the road. But I think what we're seeing is Sawyer Robertson in this offense is capable of winning a lot of shootouts. They are going to have to get a lot better on defense, though, at some point, to probably try to get to the Big 12 title game.
Florida Atlantic has attempted 12 4th downs. Baylor 12, both in 2 games, leading the country. Sam Houston State's attempted 10, and they're only 3 of 10, but they've played in 3 games, of course. UCLA, here's a good thing for UCLA. 7 of 9 on 4th down this year. So there you go. Speaking of the Big 12 championship, the worst team in the SEC last year just beat the best team in the Big 12 last year. Does that mean anything to you? Or is that Sam Leavitt did not look good for Arizona State. The defense completely lost on the final possession there. I don't know what kind of defense you're running. Man-to-man coverage on wide receiver split routes on the outside. Like, what are you doing in that situation? Total meltdown by Dillingham on defense, in my opinion, in that coverage scheme. You got to have protection over the top. Make him work the field to get into field goal range. And Blake Shapen played great. Baylor quarterbacks playing great everywhere.
Yeah. Also, was a great weekend for like former Alabama quarterbacks because Dylan Lonergan, Eli Holston, and I'm forgetting there's like 2 others out there that had good performances. But about the Arizona State Mississippi State thing, I think kind of number one validation for Jeff Lebby, the rebuilding process there. Like last year was so bad, and there was X amount of new players, new staff. They've been through a lot as a program the last couple of years. To see a significant defensive turnaround in one season. I mean, they made Sam Leavitt look pretty average. He had like 82 passing yards. So I think it's funny because I thought that game had a chance to be high scoring with the 2 quarterbacks, and Shapen hit his plays. Leavitt didn't. Mississippi State did enough on defense. So that goal line stand late to force the field goal would set up the Shapen play.
Talking about Baylor being like an old Big 12 team, that's kind of like an old school SEC goal line stand there.
Yeah.
Like we're going to win the line of scrimmage. Arizona State and Kansas State, our 2 favorites to play in the Big 12 championship game, have lost 3 times in 2 weeks.
The good news is only one of those is a conference game so far.
Yeah, I'd be looking at Utah and Iowa State and Texas Tech and thinking, looking pretty good over there.
Look at the glad you brought that up because next week, I think it is Utah and Texas Tech in week 4 play in Lubbock. But
it's a lot of red and black.
It's a lot of red and black. Iowa State, we talked about this in the preseason about how they seemed like a good regression candidate just based upon program history. They get Arizona State at home and they have to play at TCU. They're going to lose a game somewhere, but Arizona, Cincinnati, Colorado, BYU, Kansas, and Oklahoma State is the other games. They're in pretty good shape.
My Cyclones are back.
Right. You were on the bandwagon first.
I love Iowa State. It's so good. All right, so we got some big games here. We'll do some picks against the spread as well. I'm sure we forgot about a lot of games, but we're trying to move around here. The SEC, by the way, Wisconsin and Alabama, that's a 3-touchdown spread. Georgia, Tennessee is huge. You got Texas A&M at Notre Dame. You got we already talked about Florida and LSU, Vanderbilt and South Carolina. Arkansas at Ole Miss. Ole Miss kind of played with its food a little bit last week. I don't know if you saw Lane Kiffin in the post-game interview immediately say, sorry to the gamblers, which is hilarious, which was me, by the way. But here's the thing, and we can kind of, if you want to do these games kind of with our picks against the spread, because I'm going to pick a couple of these. Texas A&M getting 7 points on the road against Notre Dame. These 2 teams seem like they're in different places than they were last year. Both still very good. I think this is a fantastic game for both teams to figure out exactly what they are. Georgia, 3.5-point favorite at Tennessee. I like Georgia in that one, and I like A&M if you're talking point spread. So I don't know what you make of these SEC games this week, but there's a lot of good stuff. 2:30 for Georgia, Tennessee. I don't know what – I don't think Tennessee is that much better than what we thought in the preseason. Like they have been better than I expected. And Georgia, I get it. This feels like a market correction to me with Georgia only being a 3-point favorite on the road.
The hardest thing to figure out about this Georgia-Tennessee game is, number one, I think Georgia is still a work in progress as a team. And I think trying to figure out what in the first 2 games we're supposed to take from Georgia, I have no idea. And their game against Austin Peay on Saturday, weather delay, rain, it's like, I don't think you read too much into that. Now, Tennessee has looked good, albeit against an FCS team and a bad Syracuse defense. I think there is a very real possibility that Georgia has just been sleepwalking. They have been just doing what they need to do, and we will see a much different Georgia team here on Saturday. I think what I'm watching for is Georgia's offensive line. They've been trying to figure out the right 5 because one of the goals this year is to run the ball better. It sounds simple, but they were 15th in the SEC last year in rushing offense. They got to help Gunnar Stockton. And if they are not able to get that going, can Gunnar Stockton win downfield in the passing game? Because you look at his numbers through the first 2 weeks, they're not really stressing defenses. down the field very much. It's been a lot of short stuff. Zachariah Branch had the screen pass that went long against Marshall. So I think if I'm Tennessee, I'm sitting here saying, can we get Georgia off schedule, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8? Tennessee's offense, it's not been great against Georgia's defense. And I think just looking at the matchups, like if Georgia's defense can win that battle again, I think Georgia will do enough offensively. So I think there could be some correction in that line of Tennessee's been way more impressive. Georgia hasn't the first 2 weeks.
I think Gunnar Stockton running the football is the difference.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. You know what he reminds me of, and I know it's only been 2 games? It reminds me of Stetson Bennett, Georgia. Now, I don't know if that means they're national championship good. I know that when you look at Miller and Allen and Everett and all these guys on defense, they got some dudes on defense that are going to slowly kind of become guys. And I agree with you that Georgia's still figuring themselves out, but it's figuring themselves out at a Georgia level. It's Ohio State figuring itself out at an Ohio State level. Oregon figuring itself out at an Oregon level. Lots of questions for all these guys. All of a sudden, you're starting to see these names pop up on draft boards. Like, that tight end for Oregon's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like, this cornerback for Georgia's pretty good. Like, and like all these guys are starting to crop up. It's not that we didn't know them, but those are teams that had a lot to replace. If you're talking Texas A&M and Notre Dame, for example, like Notre Dame we need to see the offensive line was so bad against Miami. I want to see the NFL talent for Notre Dame do the same thing that I'm seeing out of Ohio State and Oregon and Georgia, and I want to see Jeremiah Love get the ball more than 10 times or whatever. So I like Georgia to go to Knoxville and win. If not, then Tennessee is way better than I expected and way more in this race than I ever imagined. And Josh Heupel deserves way more credit. I'm taking Georgia laying the points. So my first pick against the spread, Georgia, -3.5. I think A&M is a more complete version of itself today than Notre Dame is today. Now, I know having the extra time is really valuable for Notre Dame in this situation, being at home really valuable. I think A&M knows exactly what happened last year, and they know that they have the pieces to attack that offensive line that Reuben Bain and company dominated in week 1. I think they're going to go up there and play very well. I don't know if they win or not, but I like A&M plus the 7. That's one of my other picks against the spread. And while I'm doing this, Stephen, I might as well just include Oregon. Oregon -27.5 on the road against Northwestern. That doesn't feel like enough points for the Ducks. So I'll take Oregon, Georgia, and Texas A&M. I went 2-2 last week, so I'm 4-4. I'm going to have 3 picks this week. That's who I've got money on as of time of taping.
A&M and Notre Dame is very interesting. So I also think about the job that Mike Elko has done at Texas A&M, and I'm thinking about the coach scouting in our magazine. And the coach is basically saying, like, yeah, what's going on behind the scenes is like this program is getting a lot better. And I wonder, it's like we saw Notre Dame, CJ Carr is still growing into the job. Offensive line wasn't great. Jeremiah Love's going to be way more involved, especially when you see UTSA was able to run the ball against Texas A&M a few weeks or in week 1. Like there is some potential. Like this could be the moment where Texas A&M goes on the road, steals a win, and we're like, oh yeah, like Mike Elko's taking that program a big step forward. I think it's like, to me, this is a Notre Dame team that's going to get back to basics here. Like they're going to run the ball, they're going to try and stop the run, and they're going to say Marcel Reed is the improvement you've seen the first 2 games actually what's going to happen here? So a lot of intrigue for me in this game. I also like Texas A&M to cover. I probably will pick Notre Dame straight up though in a much closer game than 7 points as the Vegas spread.
I think it's like last year, like low scoring, ugly. And then somebody has 2 drives in the 3rd and 4th quarter in a row where on offense where they slowly like bleed the clock and pick up points and yards and win the game. And I think that's I would err on the side of Notre Dame here, but we'll find out. This is like, hey, show us Texas A&M that you finally have figured things out, like that kind of game. Arkansas at Ole Miss, that's a 7.5 point spread. Just keep an eye on that one because Arkansas started 2-0, just kind of did the things they're supposed to do. Taylor Green, by the way, running the ball all over the place. Not sure if he has any help on Arkansas. We'll see about that one at Ole Miss. Wisconsin, Alabama, that's a 3 touchdown spread down there, although Alabama at any point could do something strange. Clemson and Georgia Tech's the last one here. We got to talk backyard brawl. There's a few others we could talk about, but Clemson and Georgia Tech. Clemson has struggled in 2 games, but I don't know how healthy Georgia Tech is, and I don't know if they have all of the pieces to hold up at the end of this game. But I I think the market is overcorrecting here with Clemson, and this is my Jackets we're talking about.
I think in the preseason, this was the one game that I thought if Clemson's going to lose somewhere in ACC play, this might be the spot on the road against Georgia Tech. I do think the market has overcorrected a bit on Clemson. I do think probably a little bit of a hangover going through the motions against Troy. Oh no, we're down 16-0. We got to rally. I think there's another switch that Clemson can get to. And I think, when you look at Georgia Tech, the great win last week over Gardner-Webb, the win over Colorado in the season opener, was the story of that game for me was like turnovers and comeback. Haynes King was banged up last week, didn't play. I think they're just getting him healthy for this game, which means I think Clemson is going to get a heavy dose of Haynes King on Saturday. And just thinking about, in the first game against LSU, Clemson's defensive line didn't quite live up to the hype. So they need this front to win on Saturday to slow down Haynes King and Jamal Haynes. And then I think you'd like to see Cade Klubnik, if you're Clemson, get back on track. So far this season, the last week, 196 passing yards, 230 against LSU. I think we expected a stronger start to the season. So I think the over kind of arching storyline for me in this game is just pretty simple. Does Clemson get back on track, or does Georgia Tech win here, go to 3-0, and we're having a completely different conversation about Clemson next week and being 1-2 and in a lot of trouble?
Yeah, my Clemson opinions would be it would have to change pretty quickly if they lose to Georgia Tech. I'm very torn. I had picked Clemson to play in the national championship, and Georgia Tech are my boys, so my jacket. So I'm very torn on this one. Either way, I win is what I'm getting at with this game, and it's the 11 a.m. kickoff, so it's by far the best start time. It's like the one that you want to watch in the morning. So otherwise, there's not a ton going on at 11 a.m. What else you got? Your picks? I got Oregon, Georgia, and A&M. I'm 4-4 against the spread. What are your picks against the spread here before we get to a couple of other games here that you want to watch? Mainly the backyard brawl, and that's about it, really.
There's one other game, which we can get to here in just a second here.
Okay.
I'm taking Texas A&M, and I'm also going to add Oregon to that. So I'm basically following you on two of those.
Okay.
I got two G5 plays this week. I am going to take Florida Atlantic straight up. They're a 2.5-point underdog to FIU. FIU played pretty well against Penn State last week. Noted. I'll take the Owls to get the victory. And I will also take East Carolina.
Ooh,
they
I
are
like that
a
one.
7.5-point favorite over Coastal Carolina. Let me tell you a story about last weekend's games. So the scoreboard at a couple sites was screwed up and not working. And so it would update and it's like, is it really right? Is the time right? And I kept seeing, man, Coastal's struggling with Charleston Southern. If they're one of the lower rated FCS teams. And I'm thinking that can't be right. And so I did some digging. I'm like, uh-oh, this is problematic for Coastal. So maybe I'm reading too much into Coastal Carolina and Charleston Southern, but East Carolina had the big comeback against NC State in week 1. They won easily last week over Campbell. I think they're better than 7.5 over Coastal Carolina.
Man, okay, all right, that's risky.
That concludes your weird Steven Saturday story.
I like that. I like that. You were 4-5 on the season. You were 2-2 last week as well. You got who'd you say? A&M, FAU, Oregon, and East Carolina. Is that correct?
That's the 4. Yep.
All right, so 4 for you, 3 for me. Check out the Twitter account at Braden Gall. I always post if I add any more to that by the end of the week on Saturdays. I always post that Saturday morning, so check that out. All right, what else? Pittsburgh at West Virginia. Oh my God, West Virginia. Oh, by God, West by God, Virginia. Even
that's not too surprising though. Ohio's
I
good.
Hear you. I hear you. They're good. That's a good MAC team.
Here's the biggest problem though for West Virginia. They just lost Jaheim White, their best player on offense. The running back got injured against Ohio. He's out for the year. Also, 13-9 was the final score of that memorable backyard brawl. Saturday's date is 9/13. The Pitt West Virginia game that knocked. That's the date Saturday for this game. So,
that's too. Come on. That's too Pizzagate for me, man.
I just bring that up because
You're down the rabbit hole of a worldwide conspiracy.
it's not meant to be a conspiracy. They're just a strange
No, I hear you,
coincidence in the return of Rich Rodriguez. So great rivalry. Much like
that's
the border
funny.
war. Glad to have it on Saturday.
That's super funny.
I
I love that. All right, what else you got?
wanted
There's
to
another
mention.
one you got. How about Colorado at Houston? I like that one.
Friday night one. Yeah.
I am genuinely interested in USC's offense at Purdue. It's one of those like ramp up tests, right? It's not going to be like the reason you love Purdue or the reason you love USC. But I'm kind of USC curious right now, and I don't want to like be. I don't want to be over my skis on this, because they just scored a bunch of points against bad teams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. I want to see USC against a better opponent. I don't know. I think Purdue is probably 18 in the Big Ten, but it's still a much better challenge than Missouri State and Georgia Southern at this point. So excited to see what USC's got. Also, how about Texas State against Arizona State? Last year, Texas State nearly won this game. It was, of course, it was in San Marcos. This time it's at Arizona State.
My favorite river in
right. So Arizona State, I think I'm eager to see if they can rebound, but also I think Texas State, I just want to point this out. They got a good win over UTSA last week. They have I think a quarterback that's on the rise in Brad Jackson. They also have a couple good running backs and Lincoln Pari and Jalen Jenkins. So I like this Texas State team. I don't know if they can go on the road and get the win over Arizona State, but we talked all preseason, felt good about James Madison. We saw them play Louisville. Here's Texas State against a good Arizona State team and seeing if Sun Devils bounce back, see what another G5 team can do in the spot.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else? I think that's it.
I think we covered the nation after a crazy week too. Yeah.
Coast to coast. All right. Let's see. Well, I think you've mentioned everything. I'm trying to look at all the games here. Oklahoma, Auburn, Missouri have easy games. Texas Tech, Iowa State, Utah have easy games. So there's just a lot of easy games still left on the schedule. So we'll see. Other than that, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page. Thumbs up on Athlon Sports, Athlon U College Football Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe. And as well as follow us on the socials, athlonsports.com as well. And I'm hearing interesting rumors about more new magazines coming from Athlon Sports. So stay tuned for that as well. For Steven, I am Braden. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Enjoy week 3, everybody. Talk to you later.